Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting the like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Icy Warp from the Relationship Advice subreddit, and it says, I'm 99.99% sure my 35 male wife, 33 female, for 14 years has been cheating on me for years. I'm completely broken and at a loss for what to do. I'm sorry in advance for the length of this. I, 35 male, think that my wife, 33 female, is cheating on me and has been for many years. We've been together for 14 years, we've been married for almost 10, and we have a 5-year-old daughter together. Incident number 1. When my wife and I were in college, where we first started dating, we had an incident where she had some really sexually graphic texts from a guy we both knew from school. She even had classes with him. I confronted her about the texts. I definitely didn't handle it well and basically accused her straight out of the gate as cheating on me without realizing that there were some possible outs for her. One of those outs was that she claimed that they were just some pervy texts that she got from this guy out of the blue, and that if I had paid any attention when I was snooping through her phone, that she hadn't actually responded to them. At the time, I conceded that I may have overlooked that possibility, and I had overreacted. She apologized to me for not mentioning to me that some guy was hitting on her like that, and I apologized for overreacting and for snooping. We moved on from there. Incident number 2. Fast forward to this last year. My daughter, wife, and I are at the gas station. I can tell my wife is kind of distant and detached from the interactions my daughter and I are having. I notice she's glued to her phone as well. The gas fill for our car is on the passenger side, and I have the rear passenger door open so I can tickle my daughter while I wait for the car to fill up. I'm really suspicious of what my wife is doing at this point, so I decide that I'm going to take a look over my wife's shoulder from the back seat as what she's so caught up in. Turns out she's actively / in the moment sexting some guy. Like words, description, acts that seem very much like they've been doing this a while, texting, and looking back with 20/20 hindsight, I'm fairly certain they had been fucking as well. Also, all the shit she was texting was super graphic shit, stuff that she has never used with me, either in dirty talk or when we got intimate. And I know this next admission is pathetic, and that it shouldn't matter more than anything else. But the fact that she wanted to share in these acts with this man instead of me really fucking hurt. Probably just my pride talking, but it is what it is. So fast forward 10 minutes when we get home, and have to suffer through smiling during dinner and the whole nighttime ritual of getting our daughter to bed so as not to cause a scene by blowing up at my wife for what I had seen her texting. Honestly, that was probably a blessing because it allowed me to collect my thoughts before confronting her. I ended up telling my wife what I saw at the gas station, and right off the bat she tries to play dumb. What are you talking about? Honey, you're making no sense. I told her to not play dumb with me, and I recited some of the texts that I could remember back to her to prove that I saw what I saw. She then goes on to admit that it was a mistake, but that it was 100% nothing physical, and that she was really sorry. She admitted that the guy was a work colleague. We talked a lot that night about why she felt needed to be doing that. A lot of it boiled down to her feeling depressed and lonely. We talked about strategies that we could invoke at home, things that we both could change to help mend the rift. I guess things felt kind of okay after that, but it felt like the damage to our trust was already done, and I don't think I've ever really recovered. Even that seemingly small moment of infidelity, assuming that was only text, was just a fucking hammer to my heart. Ever since that incident from last year, I've been waking up every day as a lesser version of my former self. My emotions and propensity to feel anything have been severely muted. Interacting with my daughter is about the only thing that gets me back close to a baseline of how I remember my former self. But beyond those precious moments, I'm just a walking, grayed out zombie that puts on a good face for pretty much everything from my day to day. Going to work, interacting with my wife, etc. Most recent incident number 3. Now, fast forward to yesterday. My wife has been gone on a week-long work trip to the East Coast. We are West Coast. Actually had zero suspicions or justifiable reasons to be worried for this trip, because things have been going pretty well between us. She hadn't really given off any indicators of suspicious behavior. But my first clue was that when she arrived at her destination, she couldn't get the Wi-Fi working for FaceTime, and this stayed true for the entirety of her trip. First of all, FaceTime works on cellular data just fine, which we have a ridiculous amount of. I explained that to her, without much of a response. Second, I know that if I were gone for a week from my family, it would be my biggest fucking priority to get FaceTime up and running so that I could see my family's face every time I called to visit, which would be every single night. Which brings me to the next point. She called us in the evening to say goodnight maybe 2 times out of the 7 days that she was gone. Based on previous trips she has, this was really strange. Normally she is like clockwork touching in with us to share her day and to hear from us about our day, and again, always on FaceTime. I asked her about that and she claimed that she was too tired in the evenings to get back to us. Also, in the past, if she was away from me/home, she would always text me goodnight and that she loved me, even if we had previously chatted moments earlier on FaceTime or via phone call. For this recent trip, she never texted me once. So, when she got back, my radar was on high alert. Now, I don't feel good about this next part, but she went to sleep that night. I checked her travel bag to see if my suspicions were correct. Sure enough, to my surprise, she keeps this little red book as a diary in her work bag. I open it up and there is a date marked 2nd of the 9th 15. Turns out she started writing a poem on that day about our daughter, who had just been born the previous fall. Okay, that's really sweet, I say to myself, and I start feeling bad about my snooping. Flip to the next page and there's a new entry. There's no date, but it's written sequentially right after aforementioned poem, so I know that I describe here was an entry that came after our daughter being born. This non-dated entry starts off describing how much she longs for this specific person. Doesn't give his name. She goes on to talk about how she can't stop thinking about him. Every man she sees reminds her of him. She talks about how she never really intended for things to go very far, but that one night that started in the bar and ended up going upstairs just felt too right to not be something meaningful. She goes on to say that she doesn't feel bad about making that decision in regard of how it impacts her other life. She describes how she thinks maybe her other life was the mistake. This goes on for pages. The entry ends with her making peace with herself that he moved on from her, and it was time for her to forget about him. I'm assuming that her other life is our daughter and me. There was only one more entry after that previous one. I took pictures of it and have typed it out here in its entirety. It said, "I'm laughing to myself because I haven't opened this book in over 2 years, and I'm here sitting in his bed, in his room, at his home, still feeling angst over so many of the same things. I'll go home after having a week with him and I'll be asking the same questions. Is he ever going to call again after? Was it so stupid to go on this trip? So funny how I thought we'd never speak again, and look where I am. We worked together, we talked almost every day, and he was there for me as a friend. Now here I am, and back with questions. Why was he so hot and cold those first couple of days and then just tapered off? Maybe he's doing that moral compass wrestling, and after I leave we'll never speak again. This trip was probably a bad idea, but we had a lot of fun, and he did say he's been looking forward to it. He missed me, he wanted this. I know that. I wish he would just tell me he wants me. Just me and always me. It's like we dance around things because he still wants us to have this thing happening despite the rest of my life, and I just don't want to talk about that. To the point that I'm lying, and I hate lying to him. But meanwhile, every tender moment I have with him is so precious, I can't believe it. I couldn't imagine we'd actually be snuggling on the couch, and there we were." Opie continues after that saying, "I haven't slept since reading that last full entry. I haven't confronted her yet either. It's been almost 48 hours now without sleep, and I'm just an emotional wreck. I just don't know how to handle this situation. I guess I've gotten so good at wrestling this zombie mask ever since incident number 2 happened that I've been able to limp through the last couple of days. But it's getting really hard to be around her. I hopped online and read some guides on how to deal with infidelity, and most of the guides mentioned therapy. So I'm going to look into that tomorrow. Just filing for divorce isn't so simple. My wife has a serious seizure disorder that is uncontrolled. She can't tell when they're happening, so that puts herself and possibly others, small kids especially, our daughter to be exact, in danger. I mention this as it pertains to custody. Imagine she's making dinner for her and my daughter one evening, and she has a seizure near the stovetop, and the house catches on fire. Well, the only adult in the house is lying on the floor unconscious. Or what if my daughter has a medical emergency, but then my wife has a seizure due to the stress of the situation? These are very real possibilities, and one that I fear could happen if she got custody in any way. Some of those examples aren't too far from other real-life incidents we've had over the years due to her seizure disorder. She obviously can't drive. Would this factor into a custody dispute? I mean, our daughter is starting kindergarten in a month. How could my wife transport her? I don't know what I'm looking for with this whole rambling post. Maybe just assurance that her gaslighting isn't working, that what I've described isn't the workings of an overly paranoid mind. I feel like 1 minute I'm ready to file for divorce, and the next I want to try to salvage things for the sake of our daughter, and just to avoid the awful mess that will be made in all three of our lives if we end up separating. Here's some other logistical details that seem important for anyone who's managed to read this far. We own a house together, have a mortgage. I make about X amount per year. She makes around X per year. They were deleted, the amounts, I'm afraid. We have significant investments that we have joint control over that were given to us by her dad. They total somewhere in the range of deleted in stocks and bonds. I'm on wonderful terms with her parents and her family in general. I've always been that son-in-law that was there for everyone to lend help no matter how small or large. All of her immediate family is right here where we live. I have zero family support from my side where we live. My nearest friend is 1.5 hours away. Thanks for any help in advance. An edit says, I left work today in order to start lining things up. I have a lawyer lined up for this Friday. That's the whole earliest I could find in my area. It's just a consultation, so I'm not sure what to expect from that one meeting alone. Thanks everyone for all your pearls, especially your daggers. I definitely needed some other perspectives. I know it seems unbelievable that I could go on this long, but I've been seriously gaslit for years now, just conditioned to it. It's also a character flaw of mine to want to see the best in people. I'm just so fucking scared of the unexpected, goddammit. I just hope she admits to it. Is there any way she can twist this around on me? Like invasion of privacy? We are WA state, so I can't record me confronted her without her consent. And I think you can probably guess just from that edit in itself what people were saying to OP, that he just needs to be done with this. And, you know, I can understand where OP's coming from. That he's been conditioned to it for this long, which I know seems really hard to believe because no one deserves to be treated like that, and people should just be able to get out of relationships easily when they've seen this happen to them. But for me, I always think it's a very easy thing for me to say behind the keyboard, especially when, you know, this person's living it, they're fighting all these thoughts about what happens to their daughter, etc., which I know in the grand scheme of things, they need to focus on themselves and getting themselves out because they can't continue like this. Because that trust was gone very early on in this story and there was no coming back from it, I don't think. But OP adds on the marriage duration and says, my brain has been mushed this week and I wasn't thinking straight with the math. It didn't seem that important, so I didn't really edit it out. 35, 33, married for 8, been together for 14 though. That part's right. Someone says, are you planning to do a paternity test for your daughter as well as an STD check? OP says, of all the things I'm stressed and freaking out about, that actually isn't one of them. My daughter could not be a more perfect spitting image of me. It's kind of crazy actually. Even if she wasn't mine, I'd fight tooth and nail for her because she's still my kid, blood or not. And yeah, I'm going to get an STD test. Someone says, do you have proof of infidelity? OP says, how much proof is this though? This is one thing that's gnawing at me. The first incident happening fucking 13 years ago. The second is just he said, she said. And this last incident, she can just make up any excuse she wants. That's not my handwriting. Oh, I was just writing a short story, novel, etc., etc. Yeah, I took pictures of the writing and books. But seriously, what good is it? About the seizures are a non-issue, and then says I definitely get and accept all the bashing. But I don't think some people are realizing how my psyche has been shaped over all these years. She's had this horrible disability her whole life, and it's played a major role in our relationship for both better and worse. It's hard for me to just gun down that provider part of me that's been my life for these last many years. So OP comes in with an update and says, last update for a while. Thanks you all for your support. I can't even express how wonderful all of your advice and kind words have been. I'm having a hard time getting back to all of you as this is kind of blown up. So I'm just going to have to stop for now. I'll post another thread with an update as needed. Take care. I met with my lawyer this morning and she was great. She gave me a lot of confidence that I felt was draining away from me throughout the week as I waited to confront. I also had a good friend that was my rock throughout the week, and I'll never be able to thank him enough. I ended up confronting my wife right after the meeting with the lawyer. I refused to give up any of my evidence. I just said, I know about the other guy, I need you to talk about it. I just kept repeating that line while she went through crocodile tears and confusion about what I was talking about. It was so fucking hard not giving up any of that information, but I knew I had all the power in that situation. In the end, she never confessed. I basically moved the conversation from there by saying, well, it doesn't matter if you admit to what I already know or not, because the sexting that you did last year was enough to destroy any trust I had in you, and I can no longer live life like this. From there, she just kind of shut down and became pretty docile. I never brought back up this outrageous thing I was falsely accusing her of. We pretty quickly moved into business-like details about what to do in the short term. Her dad came over and picked her up and gave me a hug and said, let us know if you need anything. I fucking teared up right at that moment. I'm not letting my guard down yet because anything can happen, but I think things may work out for the better for everyone involved. I cannot thank everyone here on Reddit enough for your thoughts, jabs, pearls of wisdom, and funny comments. You all gave me some serious wake-up calls and support. I'm forever in your debt. Someone asked on the back of this, does the family know? Opie says they don't know, for the sake of being reasonable and just wanting this to be over. I told my wife I'm on board with just telling our family. We don't love each other, we think we make better parents and lives for ourselves not being together. We haven't really talked yet about what we're going to tell our daughter. I will not be accepting her back if she does admit. There is nothing salvageable here. Someone says, what happened during the confrontation? Opie says, yeah, I'm over that part. During the confrontation, she actually tried to pull the, what the fuck are you doing? Spying on me. Having someone follow me. I expected it, so I just stared at her as she went into that mode. Opie also replied to a deleted comment who says, except she knows I have the evidence. And I told her so. I told her it was important to me that the relationship between me and your parents remains solid, and I've actually told you that I have the evidence. That sounds a little more threatening than it actually sounded, but I got my point across quite clearly. She didn't say much to that. I think the conversation pivoted pretty quickly to something else. And also I can't quite put my finger on it. The way both of her parents reacted, I wonder if they knew something or were expecting this to happen. I'm not sure if it's just sort of odd to me that they reacted without knowing any context. I don't know though, they're both just really good people, so maybe they're just being thoughtful to their daughter and son-in-law. I mean, when he hugged you straight away, I kind of thought he must know about the situation then to act that way towards you, but maybe not. Someone says to OP, is it possible that the wife's seizures contributed to her infidelity? OP says, yeah, I do realize that, and I thought of that as a possible explanation for doing what she did, but in the end, I can't really know for a fact that's what happened. And thus, I'm just moving on from it because for my own sanity, I can't be around that anymore. The infidelity, not the seizures. For sure, it's a pretty high priority for me. My hope or ideal scenario here, crossing my fingers, is that she's just miserable with me for whatever reason. And now that I've done the thing that she's lacked the courage to do, end the marriage, she can find peace and happiness of her own. That way, she can be the best version of herself for our daughter. To me, that's the win-win I want to see out of this shitstorm. And someone said about the cheating duration and says, wife was cheating for 2+ years most likely. I confronted her. Things seemed amicable with our kid in the mix. I was in a pretty bad place at the beginning of this week. I'm doing better now. So it was 4 months after this that OP came in with their final update. And it says, just wanted to fill people in with where I'm at with everything. Things are pretty good right now. We obviously separated after I confronted her. She still hasn't admitted to anything. We sold the house and now I've got an apartment with my daughter. More about custody later. I'm actually having a blast making the space my own, and it's nice having my own time to myself again. I do have to say that I thought the loneliness would fade a bit faster, but the feelings of desperation and not knowing what to do with myself are still pretty sharp. I started working out a lot, and I've also gotten back into writing and recording music again, which I haven't done in years. As far as my ex goes, I decided to keep things amicable as I could, for my daughter's sake. And I think it's the single best decision I've made throughout all of this bullshit. By allowing myself to feel all of the emotions I needed to feel before confronting her, I was able to keep rational and calm throughout all of this, and it's really made all of the difference. I can't imagine how awful things would have been on an emotional, legal, and custodial level had I just blown everything up when I confronted her. I confided in a close few friends about the truth of the situation, just because I needed someone to talk about all of the bullshit to make sure I was acting accordingly. But beyond that, no other family knows the situation. To everyone else, we just separated for amicable reasons. Her mum in particular is taking things pretty hard. I feel bad for her. She's struggling to understand what happened, but that's on my ex to tell her, not me. Her custody while we wait for the divorce to finalize is that I get my daughter Monday to Friday since I'm the only one that can drive her to school. My ex gets her Saturday and Sunday from 9 AM to 5 PM. My ex's seizures are predominantly in the evening, and it's just not safe for our daughter to be there with her on her own. At least not until she's older. We're going to work that out and get those details in writing at some point here. Anyway, I'm feeling about 60% good and about 40% freaked the fuck out that I'm on my own. At 36, I have no idea how to approach the dating scene, and my confidence is a bit shot to hell right now. I mean, for fuck's sake, I haven't given serious consideration to another woman in over 14 years. So I'm probably just going to wait for 3 to 4 months while I get to know myself again, get in better shape, and see how I feel after that. Not try to put too much pressure on myself to find someone again. If anyone else has any questions, I'll try to answer them. Thanks again for all your support. I can honestly say that this wouldn't have turned out as well as it did without your help, everyone. Take care. Someone says, did your wife attempt to reconcile? Opie says, no attempt. I made it clear when I confronted her that there was no hope of reconciliation unless she confessed. I never gave her any of the evidence I had. I needed to see some real remorse too, not just regret that she got caught. I haven't seen anything yet. Someone says, did you get a paternity test for your daughter? Opie says I would if there was any doubt at all she was mine. I'm not going to post a picture of course, but she's a spitting image of me. Zero doubts in that arena, thankfully. And even if she turned out not to be mine, I would give zero fucks. She's still my kid, always will be. I get it from a knew her health history angle, but again, she's 100% mine. And it was 2 years later, Opie just gave a little bonus one, which was titled Introducing New Partner to My 7-year-old. It just said, I, 37 male, I'm looking for advice and tips on introducing my partner, 36 female, to my daughter. All 3 of us are active people, and I want to pick a neutral space for them to meet. I was thinking a visit to the zoo might be fun. Just looking to feel out if there are some common mistakes and pitfalls I could avoid. And OP finished it all off with a little bit of cat tax at the same time. And in the end, I was really glad that OP's able to move on with life, find a new partner by the sounds of it, and is just in a better place, if you like, after all that's gone on. There was a part of me in it that was sort of like, kind of, I don't know if disappointed's the right word, but the fact that OP's taken basically equal responsibility from anyone on the outside, that the relationship has fallen apart. I'm not sure I'd be happy taking on that responsibility. People looking at me in that way saying, oh, you know, your relationship fell apart, blah, 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 because you two didn't get on anymore. It's like, no, that wasn't the case at all. Especially when she just refuses to admit it at the same time. Refuses to take any responsibility for it. I mean, why should I take on that shit? I understand he's saying it's for the benefit of his daughter, but still. But what did you guys think at the end of this one? How did this one make you feel? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. Thank you so, so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.